Oh, yeah, okay, all right, so let me start. So, first of all, I'm really delighted to be here, and I wanted to talk about learning. So I'm not talking about Agile, I'm talking about learning, and it's because I work as a coach, and learning is a really important aspect of our lives at work and our lives outside work. And so as a coach, I want to try and help people to enjoy their work, and having the opportunity to learn is a really important part. It's okay, thank you. All right, and so this is why I chose this topic. And for those of you I haven't met, I just thought I would make some brief introduction. So I work in London. I work with these guys. They're just normal software developers. And I've been working at this company called Unruly for 3 years. Before that, as Ivana mentioned, I co-wrote a book about Agile coaching, and I was working as a consultant. Now, I spoke at the ALE conference in 2011. Is there anyone who was here in 2011? Who, not here, but like at the conference. So there was a few of you. And I was talking about my worries about enterprise Agile because I felt like it's a conflict in terms. And really, it was something where Agile has turned into a thing I don't even recognize anymore. So I stopped being a consultant, and I stopped being a trainer, and I went to work with this team of developers where they're just building software every day. And I have been working there for 3 years. And I really enjoy this job. And you would think, oh, maybe in all of that time, maybe I could have done many, many Agile transitions. But what I'm preferring to do is to have a deeper experience with coaching and to try to have more continuity and to really see things through. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the experiments we made where I've been working, because we've been able to do some cool things. So the sad part, though, it's nearly the end. This is the last part of ALE 2015. So I really thought that I would ask, who has enjoyed it? I hope everybody. Yeah? Yeah. And the ALE community is a wonderful community, and I know that you will have, while you've been here, you will have learned something new that you want to try when you get back to work, yes? So, like, all of you will have heard loads of things, and you'll be going, wow, when I get back to work, I'm going to change everything, okay? Now, I don't want to take that feeling away from you, but I want to try to help you apply that feeling usefully, because sometimes it can be really disheartening and people can give up. So we really hope this is the reaction. We get back to work, we say, hey, I went to this conference, and I heard this idea, and everyone's, yes, we're going to try it straight away, and it's all going to work. Do you think that's really what's going to happen? No. We want that to be happening, but we're not actually ready for that. Like, if we had to do the idea that we were thinking about, we probably haven't really thought it through. We probably haven't really thought through all of the practical details. We may need to study more. We may need to practice more. We're not ready to just go, do it now. Or perhaps we are, but I just want to ask you to go carefully. What you have to remember is you've just had a really wonderful, uplifting experience being at this wonderful conference. So you're in a completely different mood to the people who you left behind. Maybe in some rainy, cold city. I know that London has been rainy, and it was really not very nice when we left. So when I get back, I know that people will be tired, they will have been working hard, and this is not always the best opportunity to say, oh, and as well as that, I want you to do an extra thing. So I want you to try to think about the people that you would like to engage with about your new ideas. So the biggest thing with change, and this is like the most disappointing thing in a way, is changes if you go slowly, they're more likely to succeed. So don't rush. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be tomorrow. It doesn't have to be the next day. Just go carefully, and it may be more likely that people will engage with the new ideas, and they will learn and they will enjoy doing it. So don't rush. Instead, the first thing I really encourage you to do to make a successful change and to create learning in your organization is to really think about being in the shoes of the person. And they will very likely have many worries. And this is one of the great things about working with people. They all have different worries. They're not all the same worry. You can't go, right, I checked, I sorted the worry, there's no more worries now. It's like everybody has a different worry. So this guy is thinking, how do I do that? And this other guy is, are we allowed to do that? Is there time? What if it goes wrong? So there's a lot of fear, really, that this may not be the best time. This may not be the best thing to do right now. So one thing you can really do that can help you to get into their understanding them is to try empathy mapping. Now, I remember being in a session this morning where people were talking about empathy maps. Has anyone here tried empathy maps? Okay, so this is actually a cool technique that you can use, and this could be something that you can learn and practice. But you can do it thinking about a person who you're about to introduce a new idea to, and that can help you to think whether you need to approach what you want to do differently. So the basic idea is you focus your empathy map on a person, ideally a person that you know and that you want to engage with, and then you think about what are they going to think about, what are their thoughts about this matter at the moment, what do they see, what do they hear, what will they say about the change, and these kinds of things can help you to think it through. And then you are no longer surprised when they react in certain ways. You probably still will be surprised at some things they do, but you're slightly less surprised. The other thing that may be stopping them, it's not just all of the worries. One of their biggest worries is possibly, do you know what on earth you're talking about? So like you go away and like you come back, you're talking about this crazy conference where all these things happened, people lying on the floor, people singing in a karaoke bar. People are going, yeah, this sounds a bit weird. So in order for people to have trust in you, you really have to invest in your idea. And this means investing more time and learning and really preparing. So not just kind of throwing an idea that you have just at people, but instead really exploring it and studying and being ready to share it with people. Invest your own time in it. And then it's always cute to have a little rabbit in your slides. And I nearly always have some kind of cute animal. But what you want to do, if you're trying to encourage people to come along and engage with you in something, perhaps it's nice to make it attractive and make it easy for people to use. So the lucky thing about all of this, I'm kind of being a bit gloomy, is that actually one of the big things that motivates people at work is the opportunity to learn and improve their skills. And if you can find ways for people to feel that they are in a learning environment, they will bring their own energy towards your project and towards the changes that you're trying to do. I saw one of these penguin things on the second floor here. Has anyone ever tried using one of these? It's like an aid for helping you to skate when you're not very good at standing, when you have very slippy feet. And so often, for instance, if you're trying to introduce a new tool, you may need to create some templates, some guides, some instructions. All of these kinds of things can make it a little bit easier for somebody to engage with. Some examples, some worked examples that can also help. And then this is like a picture of some bottlenecks. And you've heard about bottlenecks in lean thinking, I hope, yes? So you don't want to be a bottleneck. You don't want everybody depending on you to organize everything. This is like, then you will be worn out with trying to make everything happen, but also everybody will believe that it requires you to be there for everything to happen. So one of the important things when you are coaching and when you're working in an organization and trying to encourage learning is you don't have to do it all yourself. So if you have knowledge, share it with people. If you have any secret knowledge, make sure it's not secret knowledge. And try to involve as many people as you can in getting any kind of initiative started. So I think there's a French saying about the dog who barks is not dead. Is that true? Any French people ever heard of this? I don't know. Anyway, the thing is that often you will have a complaining people. Have you ever had any complaining people in your organization? Yeah? No, never. And have you ever complained about somebody else as well? So yeah, the point being that when you are complaining, you're usually at least engaging with the general idea. Complaining about something is at least not ignoring it. So complaining is a good thing. At least they're listening to you. They're starting to like or engage with your idea, even if they think there may be some problems with it. So what I would really encourage you to do is if you have people who are complaining and skeptical, get them involved and actually find out what they're complaining about and maybe sort it out. Then the other part is really creating the conditions for learning. So this is probably the hardest thing, because what do you think the main problem that stops people learning at work is?
They already know.
Well, they already know could be one thing. Having too much to do. So basically, the biggest thing you can do is you need to try and find time. To find time or to create places and spaces where people can actually have the opportunity to stop with their main thing of work and have a time to think. And so as a coach, this is really what I'm trying to do, is create times in the daily work when we do think and when we do learn and try to create new ideas. So there are actually so many sources of learning that I could not fit them into this talk. And actually, I had to shorten this talk quite a lot, so I cannot talk about all of these things. There are, and I will just go very briefly through this picture. So imagine this is you in the beginning, in the middle. So you can do some learning on your own. And you can read books, and you can watch videos, and you can look at open source tools, and you can go to conferences, and you can take training. So that's one thing you can kind of do, and you can work away at on your own. But you have many other sources of learning, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how our teams where I work try to use some of these other resources. So you have people who you work with. You can learn a lot from them. There are people in other teams. You can learn a lot from them. You can learn a lot from looking at what the behavior of the live systems is, and also what users do with your live systems. And you can look to see where the money's coming from and understand better how that's fitting in with your products. You can also go and look at other organizations, and so I'll talk a little bit about how we do developer exchanges. So I'm going to talk about some of these things and practically how we do them in our teams. So who has retrospectives? So this is a very classic Agile technique. We have retrospectives we have very different formats of retrospectives. One of the things that we do is we try to have everybody knows how to facilitate a retrospective, and we take turns to facilitate the retrospectives for the other teams. And just having different people doing it creates a variety. So it's not the same retrospective every time. I tried to show some pictures of different things. So like here's in one corner you have people having a retrospective in a restaurant, and they're having a breakfast, and they're actually using a dialogue sheet, which is one where you kind of fill it in on the table. The breakfast gets in the way, so you need to eat the breakfast first before you can actually do this. Other things we do is we have people who don't work in our office. Do you have any such people? People who are not always in the same office as you. It's really hard to treat them to make them feel equal, and to try to make sure that they get the same amount of voice in a retrospective. So that we try different techniques. We have a product manager in New York called Amy, and you will probably not be able to see, but in the picture there's a laptop, and in the laptop is Amy, and she's there around the table with us. So she can see the same view as somebody who was sitting in the table. And the other thing is, this is in the bottom corner, Amy's on a big screen, and she's in a room where we don't have a wall for the post-it notes, so we put the post-it notes all over Amy's face, which she doesn't mind, except sometimes she puts these Google effects on, so she's like wearing a crown just there. And we send her photographs. So during the retrospective, she doesn't just have to rely on hearing. During the retrospective, we're sending her photographs of all of the post-it notes, and in the side of the Hangouts we're using, she's writing things, and we're translating them into post-it notes and putting them up there. So we're trying to make her feel equal in our retrospectives. And so I guess I just wanted to say, even with retrospectives, you can think about how you do them and try to find ways to make them better for everybody. Another classic technique that we do is we have coding dojos. So we have a lot of software developers in our team, and they want to learn new languages, and they want to learn new frameworks. And there's also some things they don't really want to learn. So like recently we had a CSS dojo, and we had Java 8 dojo, and they're like more boring things. And then sometimes we have a Swift dojo and like cool technology stuff. But the idea is that one developer is the person who prepares the dojo, and they prepare a series of lessons for people, like 3 or 4 lessons, and we make a time in the work day which is close to lunchtime, but it's not your lunchtime. And I've agreed with the managers that this is a good thing. We want our developers to learn, and so it is part of working is to go to the Code Dojo and learn new things. And it's something that has been going now for 2 years in our teams, and each time it's a little bit hard. People go, oh, we finished that one. That dojo was really good. Java 8 dojo, brilliant. But who will prepare the next one? And now we realize that it's very simple. We just write the list of the techniques that we want to learn, and we write a list of people who know about it, and people put votes, and eventually it means somebody decides they will run this dojo. The core technique that we do is pair programming. So all of our code is written in pairs, and this is because everybody has to support the live systems, so we can't afford for people to not know how it works. So we have large screens, and everybody works in pairs, and they switch around, so they're working with a different person every day. The other thing that we do is we work in more than pairs. So you think, oh, I could never convince my boss to do pair programming. Well, I don't know. Mob programming is what we do as well, quite a lot of the time, but we don't do it in exactly the same way as mob programming is always practiced. So we found that the best thing that works for us is to have 3 people. 3 or 4 people, and it means somebody, if there's an interruption, somebody can leave and deal with the interruption and come back. And also, if there's just 2 people and they're having an argument about what should we do next, the third person helps them resolve the argument. So what we've found is that actually what works better than pairing is working in triples, but that you wouldn't do it on everything. You wouldn't do it on the easiest thing that you've got. You do it on the hard problems. So, and we have a technique we use for doing this, which is very much like a coding dojo technique. It's like a Randory format where people have a timer and they switch around, so each person takes a turn to drive. And now, wait a minute. I'm going to make a slight segue. So I've been talking about things we learn by learning together. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about where we share about what we've been learning ourselves on our own. So we have time to have technical talks. So people give lightning talks about what they've been learning recently. This creates this culture where people want to share learnings, and they realize that the thing that is valued most in our team is what you know and the new things that you know, and so people are keen to learn. So here's Tim giving a talk. And then the other thing that we do is at the end of a week, on a Friday, we have a time which is called Gold Card Time. It's traditional in our team anyway to wear this Viking helmet, a bit like Eve's Viking helmet. And it's a talking token. You pass it around, and each member of the team talks about the new things that they learned in the last week. And so they feel bad if they go, oh, I didn't learn anything, pass it to you. It creates this culture where we want to be learning. And the way that we do this is that actually everybody has an allowance of time. So they are allowed to take a day a week to learn and then share what they learned. It is surprising, even if you have an allowance where you're allowed to take a day a week, many people go, oh, especially when they're new and they join our company, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do on my learning time. And one of my jobs is to really try and help them to realize they're allowed to learn about the things that they want to learn about. And most people are really interested in something. They're just a bit cautious about whether it's okay. So, who sits with the business in their organization? Do you have software developers who talk to business people? Anybody? Okay, this is a really good thing. Often, if you write all your requirements down, and then the developers are implementing a solution and they haven't really seen how the users work or where they work, they'll build the wrong thing. So it's quite important to actually go and sit with business people and understand what they're doing, and so we make sure that that's part of what all of our developers do. And now, we don't often have the opportunity to work with completely different races, but we do try to swap teams. So in our organization, which is only relatively small, we do encourage people to move between teams. Not very fast, actually quite slow. So maybe I work in one team for 6 months, or 6 months to a year, and then maybe after that time I switch and work with another team. This allows a very slow movement of knowledge between the teams, and you get a variety in the work that you do, and this creates sharing of learning as well. So it's very important to consider that actually, even if you can't get time for pair programming or special 20% time, you could probably do this kind of learning. The other thing that we've had some interesting successes with is something called developer exchange. So this is taking the idea of swapping teams and then swapping organizations. So we're lucky we work in a city where there are other organizations who have similar practices to us. There are other agile organizations, and what we do is we make an agreement with them that one of their developers comes and works with us for a week, and then we will go and work with them for a week. So this picture, the reason I chose it is because it has the guy in the white shirt. He works in a completely different company. You can see he's dressed slightly differently to our developers, but he works in a finance company, and he came to work with us for the week. And then what we will do then is to arrange for one of our developers to go and work in his company for a week. And we've done this for now, this is the 3rd year we're doing this, so it's not like, and we do 3 or 4 developer exchanges a year. It is a feasible thing to do, and there are other companies that are doing this in different countries, so it's not like an impossibility. We have to make some agreements beforehand, like we won't steal your competitive ideas. Actually, it helps that if the other company is not in exactly the same business as us. And even we have to talk to the developers and say, look, this is not part of you going to have a job there. This is an experiment, and people understand. So this is, again, something that you could try, potentially. So what we're really trying to do, and I'm kind of trying to keep this a little bit short and not going to lots of depth about all of the different things, but we try to create learnings everywhere. And even one of the guys in the team made this currency, which is called learnings. And you can give a learning to somebody, and it has a picture of our CTO on it. And he was really surprised. He's like, what's this? They're all over our development area. They're these learnings that you can say, oh, thank you for that learning. But it creates this idea that learning is a valued thing for us, and it's something that we enjoy and have fun with. We don't always put them in this piggy bank. So how can we possibly make this stick? So I did try to touch on some of the things that help us to do this. And the most important thing, and it's really a very, very simple thing, it's caring about it and not forgetting about it. So when you go back from Ale, you're going to be thinking, yes, I want to make these changes. But in 6 months' time, your enthusiasm may have dimmed, it may be at the back of your mind, you're on other projects. So it's really important to be caring that learning thrives in your organization. And the way that you can do that is to try and build it into your process so that there is kind of ongoing meetings, ongoing mechanisms for people to learn. So one thing that helps, because I don't want to have to do everything, is to take turns. So what we try to do is to have people, different people, take turns to run the coding dojos, different people take turns to curate the tech talks, people take turns to do the retrospectives, and we have a mechanism so it's clear how you find the next person whose turn it is to do next. So even you don't have to have a person who picks who it is. It's just very simple. It's just like a rota. So you go and you look at the list and you go, oh, so it's you have to do it now. Ha, ha, ha. And then it means that it's fair, but it really brings variety because different people do it and they all take a turn. They understand how important it is and when it comes to somebody else taking a turn. The other thing we do, and I'm sorry to have to expose you to our team tracking mechanisms. This team calls their tracking mechanism the hieroglyphics. And they have different symbols for what they did each day. And they print this off and they look at it in the retrospective, and it helps them to understand how much time they spent pairing, how much time they spent doing research, or working on technical tasks or documentation, or being ill, or being on holiday. So the sun shines, that's being on holiday. The stars, that's the 20% time. The circle with the 2 dots is pairing. And if it's a mob day, then they draw it in a different color. And this symbol at the top, it looks like a pyramid of people. They used to draw a hangman for this, because it was a day of meetings. But now they call it a collaboration day. But they still have an awareness of who is doing the collaboration day. And if that person, you will notice, oh, that person owned, well, they did. They got their research done. They have 2 stars. Everyone is aiming to get 2 stars in their 2 weeks. And that's their 2 days of research time. But he also didn't get to do much pairing. So, and the cross symbol, this is when they're off sick, so when they're ill. And the documents, you can imagine what the documents is. So this is just a very simple mechanism you can use. It's created by the team for the team. They decide what the symbols are. They decide when to update it. But it helps them to make sure that they're doing the working agreements that they said they would do. So I'm nearly at the end of my time. So now, what does this mean for all of you? Well, hopefully, you have safe travels home. I hope that you are inspired and that you have visions of what you might do when you get back. Do you have visions of what you might do when you get back? Have you got thoughts that you want things you want to try? Yeah? Yeah? Good. Okay. All right, so now this is you being the sparkling rainbow kittens going back. And when you do this, you're going to be trying to do this slowly and carefully without annoying people and trying to be empathetic, not like, hey, look at me. You're going to be like, no. I am going to present to you some ideas, but I want to involve you in how we do them. Okay. All right, so that's all I have to say. So thank you very much. So I don't know if there's time for questions. Ivana, is there time for questions? Yes.
I asked it already on Twitter. You talked very nicely about learning wheels, yes? Training wheels.
Oh, yeah, okay, yes.
I remember that you had training wheels for story writing.
Oh, and I talked about it last time I was in the keynote, yes.
So you were no longer feeling good sometimes about these training wheels for stories. So how do you feel about that?
Okay, let me tell the full story in like a tiny amount of minutes. So who has used the story format as a I want, so that, yeah? Okay, so this is partly my fault, okay, I'm sorry. I worked in a team and I wrote an experience report. This is for XP 2001, so quite some time ago. And I wrote about how we did user stories. And I just casually had on this poster that was on the piece of card by the side of a pool in Sardinia, so a nice location, as I want so that. And the reason is because for us it was really important that people asked, who wants this, why do they want it, and they understood where the value would come from. So we, in our team, were using this template. And it can be useful to develop your own templates, to develop things that suit your team. Where it can go wrong is if they're like imposed by a tool that somebody else is rolling out across the organization. And I would really, if you ever see a user story that says, as a user, you just scratch that bit out because that doesn't mean anything. The idea is it's about trying to find out really what kind of user, what kind of situation. You're trying to find the context. And so to not use tools blindly, you can use tools to help you in your own context. But if you try and import tools without really understanding, and this is what I think people have done, is they've kind of gone, oh, yes, user stories, you just put ASA at the front, and then it's like it's a user story. But that's not really understanding what user stories are. And I don't think, do we ever put ASA in front of our user stories? Maybe we do. But we have user personas, but maybe there might be like several. Depends what it is, but we don't use that template. Any other questions that are less contentious than that? Any? Yes?
You mentioned at the beginning that you moved from the consultant role
Yeah.
to team coach in the organization. My congratulations.
Thank you.
Good decision. So I have a question. Have you faced the problem of you lose the authority of external consultant.
Yes.
Now you are a team.
Yes.
Way working people. This is what
Yeah, I think if you come in and you're brand new and like, you go, oh, and she's written a book and like she does all these talks and stuff. Now, they don't care about that really. However, what happens that is you develop a different relationship with people. So you don't have the relationship of authority with people. What you have instead is something else. So you build a connection where you are the person who really listens to each and every person and understands what they're trying to do and their ideas, and you are the person who helps them implement their ideas. And so they probably treat me more like a mum figure now. Probably because I'm the oldest person there. But yeah. It just changes things, and I think it's really nice. It took me like maybe 6 months before I realized I was really staying there for a long time. So, yeah. I guess we're now at time's up. So if you have any other questions, do come and ask me afterwards. Otherwise, thank you very much, and thank you very much to the organisers of Ale.
And we want to thank you, Rachel, for joining us. And please continue speaking, at least on our event. So, I guess this is time to say goodbye and have a very nice weekend. Maybe we could meet at dinner, but mostly hope to see you at Ale 2016, and that some of you join organizing it or just enjoying it. There's a question? We have described it over there. So could you form a circle? We want to close this nice. Yes.